Hello, good morning, and welcome to yet another exciting edition of The Other Perspective, brought to you by Alliance for Finance Monitoring. The Other Perspective is a space where we interrogate the thing behind the thing that is the thing. My name is Elizabeth Karunji, and I am your host for today. Before I get into today's discussion, let me request you to subscribe to ACFILM's YouTube channel, press the like button down below, and also kindly share the links with your friends and networks to tune in and be part of this discussion. Today we interrogate whether LUBOWA is a financial crime scene. And before we start, let me give you a brief background to this. The controversy surrounding the LUBOWA Hospital or Pineti project continues to unravel in the media. As a matter of fact, Italian firm Finanzi, owned by Enrico Pineti, was not subjected to a competitive bid process on top of being issued a promissory note of 397 million US dollars by the government of Uganda in 2019. This is by far the most expensive hospital built in Uganda in comparison to Kiridu Hospital, which cost the Ugandan government 25 million US dollars. And this makes the LUBOWA Hospital project approximately 16 more times expensive than the Kiridu Hospital. And there are two contentious issues that stand out in this LUBOWA project. The first being the issuance of the project to the Finanzi company when no satisfactory tangible work had been done yet. And the second being no procurement or open contracting or competitive bidding process done for the construction of the hospital, denying other companies the opportunity to submit a bid. On top of all this, despite no major activity on site to show for the 348 billion Ugandan shillings that was disbursed for the project in the current financial year, the Ministry of Finance officials want an additional 319 billion Uganda shillings approved by Parliament for the same project in the next financial year. The work the media has done on this scandal in terms of bringing this to light is very commendable and perhaps also laudable. We should also commend the Financial Committee on Finance, which acted in a very bipartisan manner. And with me today to discuss this topic is Priska Wanyenya. She is an activist and journalist covering the Parliament of Uganda, and she's also a regular panelist on the show. Welcome. Priska, you're most welcome to the show. Priska, I can't hear you. You seem to be muted, but it's okay. Just kindly unmute. And then with me, I also have Eseru Abel, who is a political scientist and also a familiar face to The Other Perspective. Abel, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I want to thank all those people who are following us from wherever they are. I know they will be able to listen to us and follow the show.
Yeah. All right. So Abel, I'll be starting with you, and I want you to help the viewers understand what is a financial crime, and are we right to signpost LUBOWA as a scene of financial crime?
Very interesting topic indeed. For starters, a financial crime is any activity that involves fraudulent or dishonest behavior for the purpose of personal financial gain or anything that includes illegal conversion of property ownership. But also I can term it in terms of victimless crime, where you engage and no one feels the pain. But also they are the most heinous because they do cripple most economies and also they ruin democracy. So if you want to know the types of offenses of financial crime, some of them include fraud, cyber crime, money laundering, terrorist financing, bribery and corruption, among others. And there are various gangs or groups of persons who always are engaged in this financial crime. Some of them include organized criminals like terrorist groups who perpetuate large-scale fraud to benefit themselves or fund their operations. But we also have corrupt heads of states who sometimes use their positions or influence to loot coffers or influence the decisions on which persons should get government contracts or what. But you also have business leaders or executives who oftentimes manipulate or misrepresent financial data in order to misrepresent the true financial positions of the company. Coming to your question on whether we can signpost LUBOWA as a sin of financial crime. Of course, we know that when government contracts someone to do an activity or to do a project, and that person does not actualize that project within the agreed time frame, first of all, that makes it that makes that project fraudulent in nature, because you've acquired money from the government, or government promises to pay you money, and you get that money, but you don't fulfill in terms of delivering the project. So to me, LUBOWA is a sin of financial crime, because first of all, there was a breach of contract in terms of the promissory notes that were delivered. LUBOWA, the contractors of LUBOWA were supposed to, that's financing firm, an Italian firm, which was supposed to be in charge of the LUBOWA's construction, was supposed to construct the hospital within 2 years, and after the 2 years, they delivered that hospital. Then that's when they would effect the promissory notes, which were equivalent to US dollar 397 millions. But we saw they already went ahead and effected the promissory notes. They got about 98 million US dollars, which they have already spent, but there was no work that has been done already. So there was a breach of contract in terms of the promissory notes that were given to them. But also we are looking at the beneficiaries of this project in terms of the government. Some people who are in the government have gone silent, because we know of the fact that LUBOWA Hospital, the awarding of the contract to finance came as an order from the executive, and Parliament was ordered to not approve it. There was no, as you hinted earlier on, there was no open contracting, or there was no procurement process done to choose who should take over the construction of LUBOWA Hospital. So all those anomalies that we see make LUBOWA Hospital a financial crime scene. But also we see that the milestones that were set, the hospitals were supposed to be delivered within 2 years. But right now we have entered the 3rd year. There is no structure to be seen. We are only looking at the foundation. So it's real fraud, it's corruption. So all those are indicators of financial crime. So it makes it a financial crime scene.
Thank you, Abel, for that. LUBOWA is indeed a financial crime scene based off what you told us. And Priska, Abel talks about the procurement process that was ignored. We saw how this project has been characterized by endless breaches, many of which are bordering financial crimes. What is your take on the happenings and revelations that are shocking Ugandans on a daily?
Thanks so much, Lisa. Are you getting me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
So it has become a trend for the so-called investors to now walk into any government office, hand over your proposal, and say there is a project I want to undertake. And those are kind of the proposals that even UIA handles. And we saw it happen with. Initially, we thought that this was a characteristic of mostly the Chinese, how they handle their business, because we saw it with Entebbe Express, where you walk into office with your proposal. So when it comes to the issue of procurement, it's the investor who walked into the office and said, I'm going to undertake this kind of job. So one of the excuses that government will probably use is say the only offer we had was from financing and not anybody else. So the procurement debate doesn't come in so much, because already the government will use that defense that this is the only proposal we had. And the Parliament visited the site on Friday, and from what I know is that the two contractors that Finasi had partnered with to undertake the jobs, they left the site. That was Rocco and Power China. And one of the things the Minister of Health says, because it was the one in charge of supervising, is that the two contractors didn't have enough money to undertake the works, because with the contracts you use your own money, then you're paid later on. So, and that revelation alone brings to question the capability of Finasi to undertake the works, because we imagine that by the time you bring on board someone, you have looked into their background, their financial strength to undertake the works. And during the visit, when the Minister of Health was asked the due diligence they conducted on the contractors, Otim, the Assistant Commissioner of Health Infrastructure, said that they did a Google search on Power China, the second contractor, and they found that Power China is one of the top 200 contractors around the world and have undertaken such works. So you are simply doing a Google search and go to the website, and these websites, they're uploaded by people. Uganda, the Minister of Health does not have control over what information is on Google for it to rely on it. Although we know that is the basic, but you cannot commute a almost 1.8 trillion job to simply a Google search, and you sit and you say you're comfortable with it, and you are at the same time claiming that Power China is one of the 200 top companies in the world. So if it is one of the 200 top companies in the world, how are they not in position to raise money to start the construction of LUBOWA if they are top as you claim? Because you cannot compare the economy of China's economy, which is the second largest in the world, to Uganda's. You see that? I tend to think even the economy of one village in China is equivalent to Uganda's. So if you cannot claim to be a top company when you cannot run a single project in an economy like Uganda, so that gives you a glimpse on, and some of the during the committee hearing, we realized that the government has reimbursed money over 5 times, and the money that is over 348, and the money they were requesting for the next financial year was 319. It is the one that set off this investigation, because in the first place, even Parliament was shocked that already some money has been given out to LUBOWA. They didn't know about it, so they simply got to know about the event when they were asking for another batch. So the Parliament has not even gone to investigate how the first payment was. And back on the site, we also realized that there have been some advance payment made, about $49 that has been given to the investor, and of that they have been in position to recoup 11 million. So there is that money that is also, and they claim that they are doing studies on the software. That is the money they are under, because the hospital is not just the hospital, the building. There are also software and everything that I'm looking at, hiring labor and everything. So those are part of the revelations that happened at the site. And the other one was, the question was raised on why they are beginning to reimburse them, to redeem the promissory notes. Yet according to the contract that Parliament approved, the promissory notes were supposed to be redeemed after the construction, 2 years after the construction of the works. So after you handing over the hospital, that is when you're going to. So it also brought the MPs to question what has happened to your finances, because in the earlier proposal by Pinetti that she brought to Parliament, said her finances are going to be Exim Bank Africa and Barclays Bank. So on top of the two contractors abandoning her, even the two financiers have abandoned her. So when you speak about LUBOWA being a crime scene, you tend to realize that those are part of the ingredients, even if the crime has not come out full blown, but those are part of the ingredients, because there is a lot of secrecy shrouding this whole LUBOWA project, that the public is yearning to see information and nothing is coming out. So, and when you ask me about some of the shocking things, is that when the minister had said there are no contractors on site, but we found some casual laborers on site, and it so happens that when the parliament vans were leaving, the casual laborers also left with us, like they left after us. So these are the people who were brought in the morning to try and do some things. And even the Ministry of Health was asked, you're saying there is no contract on site, but who are those people on site? They could not even explain. So they brought in some casual laborers, the people who are paid dressed on those overlaws and everything to act like they were. And immediately Parliament left the committee, they also left the site.
Wow, Priska, you just said something about the last visit of MPs to the site. But we know that in 2019, when MPs tried to visit the site, they were denied access to the site, claiming that it was for safety purposes. Wasn't that writing on the wall already? What took them so long to act? Because that could have been a clue to what we are seeing today. It took them 3 years to see that nothing was being done there.
You see, one of the things that, as I told you, one of the things that ignited the debate on LUBOWA was, first of all, the death of the former speaker, because people were asking, they remembered that, okay, we were promised a hospital in the first place. And the other thing was the money that Parliament was shocked that was already given, because even Parliament was not aware that this money had been given. And it becomes hypocritical for Parliament to even act shocked, because when this proposal was brought to Parliament of LUBOWA, there were questions raised on, you remember that land even has some contestations between some locals and everything. All these things were brought on the table, and the opposition even warned government over this project, and even wondered why isn't this money given to other hospitals like Mulago or the regional hospitals to upgrade them to a better state than building a specialized hospital. But government stuck on its argument, saying that we are trying to reduce on the health tourism that the money that Uganda is losing. And
just a second, we also had reports that the speaker then, Kadaga, received a letter from the president in Parliament that day that she showed to MPs on the day they were supposed to approve those monies. Are you aware about that?
No, I'm not aware of that letter yet. But the hypocrisy that the MPs, especially on the ruling side, show is what I think is what angering the public, because they were warned about this deal, but they insisted because they had the numbers. And we've seen these mistakes being committed over and over again. You see that? Yeah.
Thank you, Priska, for that. Abel, do you think Uganda's legal and institutional framework for financial intelligence equal to the task that we are dealing with? with cases of such nature? Also, what do you think explains the deafening silence of the Financial Intelligence Authority?
I think before I respond to that question, I also wanted to give my view on the issue of the procurement, which we have seen endless breaches. First of all, we remember that when Finance Farm got this deal, they initially only contracted Roco Construction Company, and Finance had 95% of the shares. Roco had 5% of the shares. But in the middle of doing things, they decided again to bring the Power China, and they're now trying to kick out Roco out of the deal. So Roco decided to run to court. And around July of 2019, I think 2019, 2020, there was an injunction from the court which was to prevent Roco from being evicted. Because I think Finance found it very difficult to work with Roco, so they wanted to evict them, and so that they can continue working with Power China, because they had brought them on board. So these things were in court, so there was an injunction. That's why we still saw Roco before they also left the site. So we are seeing there are very many breaches from the signing of the contract, the procuring of the contractors, single sourcing, which we have seen, which was only first of all given to Roco, and then again they bring another person, the one they had already awarded. So these are all signs which show you that this deal has been so fishy, and it was not done in a proper manner, and it was going to cost us a lot of money. We have seen as our sisters shared with us here, the financiers who were supposed to give them money have also decided not to give her money. She had agreed in the agreement that the award she was given, she was going to finance the entire project. Then after handing over, then that's when she would effect the promissory notes. But we have seen money has already been given to her without even the knowledge of Parliament. So those are all issues that need to be seen as indicators of financial crimes. So to me, the procurement process was faulty, and it makes the entire project a fraud. So when something is a fraud, that means anything you do is in line of financial. Back to your question on whether we have whether Uganda's legal institutions and institutional frameworks equal to the task of dealing with this sketch of the case of such magnitude. To me, of course, we have institutions in place, the Financial Intelligence Authority. We have the Inspectorate of Government that looks at issues of corruption. But the question is whether they are strong enough to deal with such cases. First of all, the first thing we need to understand that most countries that have dictators in place or leaders who have overstayed in power and they want to continue entrenching themselves in power, they thrive on corruption. And one way of thriving in corruption is making sure that you have investors that come in place and tell you they are going to help government in developing the country using some of the projects, but they use those very projects to swindle money and do shoddy work, and the money ends up helping some of those leaders to entrench themselves in power. So for you to have yourself entrenched in power, first of all, you have to weaken all the state institutions. So whether you have legal and institutional frameworks in place, but they are not strong enough. So they cannot come up to start chasing after, and they know that they were sent by the executive, and they initially told them, you're going to be awarded this contract, so you go and be in charge of the contract. So Parliament even approved. So you have only one investor coming, given the contract, does fraudulent work, and you don't see anything on ground, still asks for more money. You ask yourself, so who is this investor working for? So if the institutions we have here, the legal and legal institutions that do work around anti-corruption, like the Financial Intelligence Authority, which is supposed to enhance and identify proceeds of crime of this nature, like for me, I regard this as a financial crime, because You cannot acquire money from the government. You don't do any work. The parliamentary guys want to go and do oversight in the site. You block them from doing their work. After now, they start making a lot of noise and demanding that we have to go and see these things. That's when now you allow them, once they reach the site, there's no work done. The contractors that you were working with have left the site. So by the time Parliament is even doing that, we should have seen that this should have started from the institutions that we have, like FIA, IGG should have come out and raised the red flag on this project already. But when they wait for individuals and citizens to start making a lot of noise, then they also now maybe go and start, I don't know whether they are going to really investigate, but I don't think they are going to do anything else, because to my own understanding, all regimes that want to sustain themselves in power thrive through corruption. And one way of thriving through corruption is coming with pseudo investors who come and deceive you that they are going to invest in projects and the government will finance them after. Then after a certain period of time, you don't see anything tangible from the project. So I don't have any hope in our institutions because they don't have the powers to do that.
Thank you, Abel. So in an event that this whole issue is too big for our legal framework to handle, like you have alluded, is there any way that it can be referred to the authors of the Pandora Papers or any international organization to help? What do Ugandans do at this point? Because you've showed us that the anti-corruption organizations that we have here, the financial crime organizations, can't really do anything about it. What do we do as Ugandans now?
As Ugandans, what we can only now do is we have to take the mantle in our hands. We need to now do investigation ourselves and also partner with other investigative journalists outside the country. Let her investigate this thing to its dot, because these are some of the ways money is being laundered. Because you find that you acquire money from the government. Maybe you are an investor working for someone, a politically exposed person in government, as a politician or a bureaucrat, and you deal with them to acquire money from the government. After acquiring that money, you don't use it for the project, but you end up using it for other things, like maybe you end up putting up your own apartments, buying lavish cars and other things. So you've laundered it after acquiring it from government. So we need to document some of these things, expose them, work with other international partners so that we expose these people so that they know that whatever they are doing, they are ruining the country's economy. They are not helping the country grow. They are stealing from the country. The taxpayers are the ones that are suffering. So it's high time we start exposing them. I think we need to come up with our own Kampala papers, like Pandora Papers. We have had the Panama Papers also. So it's high time we come up with our own Kampala Papers, exposing some of these fraudulent acts which we are seeing. These are all financial crimes which we need to expose. We don't need to leave them just like that.
All right, thank you, Abel, for that. We are going to go in for a short break and we'll be back briefly.